Are we live now? We are live, D-Lake,
It's
on
live. I didn't
TMS.
hear any sound. Great, great, wonderful. Good morning and welcome to the Media Speaks Live. I'm D Lake for Prez, David Lake. I'm joined this morning by Kyle Phillips. Kyle, how are you?
Oh, wonderful. Excited for today's show, D-Lake.
Yeah, so am I. We just couldn't wait to get started. We're still waiting on our super special guest that will be joining us here shortly today. Running for senator in Florida, the Libertarian candidate, Augustus Sol Invictus.
Yeah, we're waiting for him. He'll be in any minute, having some computer issues, which we should really set these things up earlier and do test runs, but that's okay. But yeah, Augustus is running for Senate from the state of Florida, running for U.S. Senate. We heard about him, about a week? Last week, wasn't it?
Oh, it
Or the
was
week
2 weeks
before?
ago. And
2 weeks ago.
it looks like we might be joined by Augustus. Can we hear you, Augustus?
All right, looks like we're trying to still get some computer issues out of the
Okay,
way.
go ahead, and why don't you continue an introduction here for Mr. Invictus, and we'll try to get him in here as soon as possible. Kyle, go ahead.
Yeah, so I heard about Augustus Invictus, 2 weeks ago? We talked about it on the show. I heard about it like the day before we went live, and I mean, obviously, you hear somebody running for Senate with an awesome name like Augustus Invictus, it kind of sparks your attention. You want to look into it. So we did. We were just kind of joking around like we normally do on the show and looking him up, looking up his page, and since then, me and D-Lake have done some much deeper research into what makes Augustus Invictus, what he represents as a libertarian candidate for Senate. And so D-Lake asked him on, surprisingly, after we were kind of mean last time. He agreed graciously to come on the show. D-Lake, I think, is trying to get set up with him right now. So if you want to learn more about Augustus Invictus, definitely go to invictusforsenate.com. That's the website up on the big screen behind me. Really, really interesting guy. I like that he's very hardcore about a lot of politicians kind of try and say as little as possible as to offend the least amount of people. He's very much about literacy and stating your opinions and telling people what you're about. So he does some fireside chats on YouTube. I think he's got like 10 of them or 12 of them. They're about 10 to 15 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting guy. He's a lawyer. What's the Invictus law, I think, is it?
Imperium, PA.
Imperium. Pull that up. Very much into the Greek badass names.
I believe it's Roman or Latin.
Roman, Latin, my bad. Imperium, PA, criminal and corporate attorneys in Orlando. And I have a few questions for him. Like, it says here in his, like, he has in the, where is it? The about. There's a part where it says that he got involved in law and criminal justice after, like, his family was pretty much fucked over by the DEA. I can't find, like, any details of what exactly that means. That can mean so many things. So I wanted to ask about that.
Kyle, we're still waiting on Mr. Invictus, and we're gonna try to give him a couple more minutes. I'm gonna set up to play one of his most recent videos, and just so people can get a sense of him while we're still on hold for him to get in here.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then
give me a minute to set up.
Are you gonna play one of his fireside chats? Which, it's not that old of a guy either. I think he's like, what? Maybe like 30? A little older than 30. So, interested to get him in here, figure some stuff out, talk about his campaign, what he's doing, maybe help get him some extra attention. How can you not get attention with a name like Augustus Invictus? I mean, you hear that guy's running for Senate, and I would be Googling him immediately. I did, and I don't even live in Florida. Looks like D-Lake's setting up his
I am. And I'm setting it up to play here with sound. And the very first thing he says that I actually wrote down the quote is the reason that he's speaking, it is to inspire, not to instill fear. I ask how far you are willing to go.
It's badass.
I just keep doing an Augustus impression, but let's give a listen to this, one of his newest videos, a call for total insurrection.
It is to inspire and not to instill fear that I ask, how far are you willing to go? If that question does not send a shiver up your spine, then I don't think you've given it much thought. Because I'm not asking you whether you're ready to get off your ass and vote, or whether you're willing to bitch and moan on the internet, or whether you're willing to wear ironic t-shirts to piss off your coworkers.
Some colorful language there. Would you agree?
Calling out the world. Like, is there anybody who he didn't call out on there? Like, people who bitch about stuff on the internet, right there. That's like 75% of the population just got called out. And then, like, ironic t-shirts, probably there's an overlap, but at least you get at least 5% more of the population. You're up to 80%. You just called out. Ironic t-shirts and bitching on the internet. I like it. It gets your attention, though, you know, because you hear that and it's like, well, that's me.
Willing to sacrifice. I'm asking what you are willing to risk. But as Seneca warns, we must be wary of the man who urges an action and repeats himself.
Looks like we got the man. Augustus, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Dude, are you in a penthouse suite?
Something like that. It's more like a lounge, I think is the technical term for it.
Welcome to the show. We were just playing a few of your videos, showing people your website, talking about Imperium Law a little bit. So for anybody who doesn't know, Augustus Invictus, candidate for United States Senate. Thanks for being on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Definitely. D-Lake is, I think, trying to get everything fixed. It's weird. Usually I'm the one who has internet problems. Everything's going perfect for me today. I knew that I couldn't trust it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your campaign and what got you to run for Senate?
Well, I guess the original impetus was, probably closing on a decade now. I used to work for a pharmacy. You might have heard this story before. But
see, I looked this up, and you said something about you worked at a pharmacy, and essentially the DEA fucked your family over, and that's the most that I could find on it.
That's pretty accurate, yeah. So, I was just a pharmacy technician, and one day I was typing at the computer, and I heard everybody stop working, get to the front right now, and I thought it was a joke. I turned around and said, DEA agent. An armed DEA agent. I was like, oh, you were serious? And he said, yeah, I'm serious. Get up and get out right now. Lost everybody around. The guys who owned the pharmacy, they ran back to England instead of fighting it. So we were all out of jobs, and I was pretty pissed off about it. So I said, one day I'm going to go into politics and I'm going to shut down the DEA. See how you like being homeless.
So that was kind of like your moment, like when the action hero gets fucked over by the bad guys, it goes into a sequence of him training and like lifting weights, shooting guns. You went and started studying law.
Yeah, I've kind of had like a really boring 8-year montage. We're going to play some 80s rock too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Of course. Me studying a lot of law books and being really bored all the time.
And you studied out here, you studied in Chicago, right?
I did, yeah. You're from Illinois, right?
Yeah, I'm in Crystal Lake, which is an hour from where you were at.
Okay, cool.
And I understand from one of your statements that you actually completed your junior and senior year of college in 1 year. Is that true?
That is true, yeah. I kind of lived in the car for the first few months of that one on campus. And actually one night, it was the night before final exams, the cops finally figured out I was sleeping in my car on campus, came and knocked on the window. They were like, what the hell are you doing? And I said, well, I've got final exams. I'm sleeping. So they said if they caught me again, they'd arrest me. So I had to find a roommate at that point. But yeah, I went in and did like 20, 24 hours, credit hours each semester and got out of there in a year.
Was it hard for you to find a roommate? I've read a couple things online that some of your peers college that you were. I'm sorry, did I freeze up?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you froze up a little bit.
I was asking if you had trouble finding a roommate in college. I read that some of your peers thought you were a little weird.
I think those might be comments from my law school classmates.
Your law school classmates. And why would anyone think that you were weird?
Well, it might be because I dressed up in school. See, I thought that if you go to a private school, you should probably dress like it. So I was the asshole that always wore slacks to school. Everybody else, they'd show up in pajamas or whatever they had to show up.
Well, I know I lived in DeKalb for a while, which is where Northern Illinois University is. My fiancée studied there. She's a teacher, and I know that their law school at NIU, you had to wear a suit to class. If you didn't, you'd be asked to leave.
Those are the good old days, man. I don't think that's the way it is in downtown Chicago.
And let's keep in mind, too, that those quotes that you were reading, D-Lake, are from people who were contacted by, what's the website, Above the Law, asking about the letter. And we do know that whenever a website or a journalist comes up to somebody and starts asking questions, people will say they want their quote in the newspaper. So what was the deal with, you wrote a letter to a few of your classmates after graduation, right? Do you want to get into that a little bit?
We're talking about the letter that got the FBI called on me.
Oh, I didn't know the FBI got called on you.
Yeah, the Civil War one. I actually hadn't graduated yet. I mean, I had graduated law school. I was out of law school for a while at that point, but I was in graduate business school at Rollins when I wrote that letter. So that actually got me expelled and trespassed for life. Yeah. I wrote even after all this had happened and said, look, you guys, clearly you made a mistake, you know, no hard feelings, but I think this has gone on long enough. And they had their lawyers write me back saying, no, you have no legitimate right to be on campus, you have no purpose here, so the trespass stays.
Which, the letter itself, I mean, I read it, and I mean, it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very, speechy, you know what I mean? It wasn't just a letter to a buddy, hey, how you doing? It was very much trying to make a statement, but I don't know if there's anything worth getting the FBI involved over it. I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, not just the FBI, but I mean a few Florida law enforcement agencies. And actually, I heard sometime later from my classmates at Rollins that the Rollins administration had actually hired private security to go on campus and make sure I didn't show up, you know, blasting everybody. That was pretty ridiculous.
That's awesome. Hey, so I'm on Wikipedia and looking up the United States Senate election in Florida 2016 to take place on November 8th. And the incumbent Republican Senator Marco Rubio openly considered whether to seek re-election or run for president in 2016. Of course, we know that he's running for president.
Right.
He stated in April 2014 that he would not run for both the Senate and the president. So that's what's his seat is opening up. You're on this page as I scroll down to the Libertarian Party, and declared is Augustus Invictus attorney. And can you talk about just the process of someone like yourself that wants to get into this race, and what made you decide to run Libertarian?
Well, as far as getting into the Senate race, it's kind of a process. See, we had actually aimed for going into a House race here in the 10th District of Florida. Our congressman here is Daniel Webster. It's a local race. I mean, it's still a national office, but it's more a local thing, and we thought that would be a good way to start out. You know, it's a stepping stone. But once Marco Rubio decided he was running for president, that did leave his seat wide open. And because a lot of the people we know also know Daniel Webster, you know, and they've told me, yeah, I like you, Augustus, but Dan Webster's my congressman. I would never not vote for him. So it's actually a better race for us if we run statewide. But as far as running as a Libertarian, I was actually raised a Libertarian by my dad. My dad's a Libertarian, always has been, always will be. And, you know, I didn't always swallow it. I had my prodigal son phase, of course.
Sure.
But, you know, going back to roots and all that. And I also talked to a marketing guy here in Orlando, and I was talking to him about going into politics. And he asked me to run for the Libertarian Party back when, you know, in the early days, before the question of Senate ever even arose. And I said, yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to, but I would think the Libertarian Party might want someone a little older than me. And he said, well, actually, I'm vice chair of the Orange County Libertarian Party, and I'd like to talk to you about it. So that's how I got into the party official. But as far as the philosophy part, that's how I was raised.
And that you just brought up another point. It's something that Kyle and I were sort of talking about when we were first introduced to you and your campaign. Is you look like a young guy. I mean, but you have all this experience in law and business and everything. And I mean, I don't know if you want to tell us how old you are, but you were mentioning earlier about 80s rap music to your video. So I have a feeling you and I are probably around, 40-ish, around the same age, maybe a little older or younger.
It's got to be at least 30. At least 30. That's the requirement, I believe.
Yeah, I'm actually 65, but
you look great.
Wonderful things. You wouldn't
Fish oil?
sacrifice a few virgins. No, I actually just turned 32 a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, wow.
And I wanted to ask too, because we were talking about how you got, into running for Senate and the connections you made with the Libertarian Party. And I've said this on the show. We've been doing this show for 3 years. I've said this at least 20 times, that I have a true belief that when you're running for any office, name above anything else. Like, I live in Illinois, where we have Dick Durbin, who is like the shittiest person to represent anybody, and he keeps getting reelected, and I'm convinced it's just because Dick Durbin rolls off the tongue. And I've said before that if I changed my name to George Washington and ran for any office, people would see George Washington and they would check that name off. Do you think that your name being Augustus Invictus helps you on the ballot?
I kind of do. I also think that having the L next to the name for Libertarian would help, because if people see this ballot and they've got Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, a lot of them might vote Libertarian just out of protest. And if they look at this ballot and they see, Ron DeSantis, Alan Grayson, Augustus Invictus, they might think, well, I hate Congress, and that name is pretty badass, so let's go for that one. I don't need these other two guys.
And Sol Invictus is the unconquered sun, the official sun god of the latter Roman Empire and patron of soldiers. So it definitely is pretty badass. But when you signed up for Facebook, did you have trouble signing up with that name? They're like, this doesn't sound like your real name.
You know what? Believe it or not, yeah. Like years and years ago, when I signed up for my real account, I didn't have a problem at all. But I had to shut down that real account because of the campaign, because there were just really offensive things on there we couldn't explain away. So I had to make a new Facebook for the campaign. And when I did, they said I had a fake name. I said, the years I've had it before this, you never thought I had a fake name, and now I had to send in my driver's license to prove I was really me. It was a little absurd.
Well, and,
I had a feeling.
yeah, getting back to how having a crazy awesome name like Augustus Sol Invictus might help you on the ballot. I've been saying since the beginning of this kind of election cycle that I think this is really right. Like, this next election, you're going to see a lot of protest votes, and in all different directions. I think you're going to see a lot of Democrats voting for Jill Stein. I think you're going to see a lot of Republicans voting Libertarian and voting for independents. I think you're going to see a lot of people voting, BS writing Mickey Mouse in as a protest. That's the thing that's been going on for years. I think it's every presidential election, Mickey Mouse gets over 5%. So this is really the year that people will look and they'll be like, somebody, even if they've never heard of you, they're going to go, well, he's not the guy who hasn't done anything for the past 15 years. Why not?
I think you're probably right about that. I mean,
not that that's a bad thing either. I mean, I think that helps you in a lot of ways. Yeah,
I agree. But I had a lot of people saying, because it's a presidential election year, a third party has no chance. They think that that's how it is every presidential election cycle. They say, well, if you're a Republican and we let this Democrat win, the world is going to end. You know that. And on the other side, if you let this Republican win, the world's going to end. So it gets very polarized during a presidential election year, which happens to be next year.
And I think that actually helps you, though, because Right. It's not like a presidential election where people are loving the candidates. I mean, if we get the best thing that you could hope for running for Senate is that it ends up being Jeb versus Hillary, because that's going to make both people in both parties so disgruntled that they're going to be looking for someone else to vote for.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you could go this long without being disillusioned by the two-party system anyway. But if you see Bush and Clinton running this time around, it should be game over for everybody. I would think everybody would think, well, it's probably time to jump ship now. And if not, you've got far deeper problems than an election.
So when you decided to run Libertarian, was there any part of you that considered running independent? A lot of Libertarians run separate from the Libertarian Party. What made you decide to go with the Libertarian Party as opposed to any other option?
Right. Well, actually, the guy who ran before me back in 2010, Alex Snicker, he ran as an independent until someone from our party asked him to run as a Libertarian and kind of talked him into it. With the way the Libertarian Party is, my experience with it, it might be better to run as an independent, because the Libertarian Party, at least here in Florida, spends 95% of its time with infighting and about 5% of its time promoting candidates and growing the party. But if I had to run for one of the two, the big two, I'd probably run as a Democrat. I mean, being not a Christian, I'm kind of persona non grata in the Republican Party. There's no possible way you can run as a Republican when you're not a Christian. And I'm an environmentalist, which, you know...
They're not big fans of that.
Yeah, exactly. So if I had to choose one, I'd go Democrat. But here we are, in the Libertarian Party, for better or worse.
Yeah,
Right,
I'm sure
and,
they give you a lot of help, too, you know.
And working with the Libertarian Party, I mean, whose idea is doing, say, the fireside chats on YouTube, all the social media? Is that something that's all you, or is that something that they're helping you with, the Libertarian Party?
The Libertarian Party, whether national or state, have helped us precisely dig. The National Party has kept its hands off because it's a live wire the whole campaign. And the Libertarian Party of Florida has deliberately done all it can to block the campaign. So we're really on our own. We do have a campaign team, so it's not just me doing everything. But the fireside chats, that was my idea. And I write all my speeches myself, so everything that goes up for the fireside chats, like, I've written it, I've recorded it, and I've uploaded. All the other stuff is a team effort, though.
I think it's great. We're joined right now by Sam I.B. DeGangi, Sam of the Correct Views, and the band Passing Time, Samuel.
Greetings and welcome to the Saturday edition, everyone watching. Sorry I was late. I didn't see the link in my. I didn't get the link in my email until just now.
Okay, great. Well, we're joined today by Augustus Invictus, and Sam,
Yes.
I know you were excited, like the rest of us, to have him on today. Did you have a question for him?
Actually, hopefully it wasn't already addressed. When I was beginning to run, I noticed a lot of people. It can be somewhat difficult to get enough signatures that you need to be on in any given area. How did you do that? How did you go about doing that?
Well, we're not actually on the ballot yet, if that's what you mean, because we do have a few thousand signatures to go on the ballot. That is not due until May or June, I think. And even then, we're probably going to pay to get on the ballot, because even if you have all the signatures, you still got to pay, I think, $2 a pop, and that's going to be just as expensive as just paying the fee. So really, we're going out getting the signatures just as an outreach effort to get the name out there and let everybody know about the campaign.
I see.
I wanted to ask, I don't know if you answered this, I had to run and grab something really quickly, but the fireside chats and stuff, if you were to win the seat in the election, would you continue to do that, and would you continue to be present on social media in the way that you have been?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Actually, Roosevelt, I think he did that well before he was president. I think when he was in New York, he would do fireside chats, and once he won as president, he decided to start it up again. And when Obama started doing that, he started putting out YouTube videos once he won the presidency, and I thought that was just the greatest idea in the world. You know, you keep people informed of what's going on in government. No matter how you feel about Obama, I think that was a great idea. And it really quelled some of the concerns, I think. Maybe raised some new concerns, but still a great idea. So yeah, if I win, I would continue to do that throughout my term as senator.
Awesome. And what are your feelings about Obama, just briefly?
So broad.
Yeah, I think, who was it? Lincoln that said, I can't really hate Hitler. I never have been able to hate Hitler. Like, I feel the same way about Obama. I don't understand why everyone wants him dead. He seems like an all right guy. I don't agree with his policies, of course, but he doesn't seem like he's the Antichrist. And actually, my professor at DePaul was Obama's student, so I'm kind of in Obama's legal lineage. That's how I see it. So I think he's a brilliant politician. You don't get up to the presidency without being that. So personally, I don't have a problem with him. As far as the policies, though, obviously I'm not for granting amnesty for all illegal immigrants or social programs, Obamacare. We have our disagreements there. But otherwise, I don't dislike him.
So that's very telling of you as a libertarian, because libertarians, and everybody here is a libertarian, we're very open about that. We're not objective. We are libertarian. But,
yeah, I always say that we are much more of a commentary show than a reporter.
Yeah, do not come to us to get like everybody's view. You will get the libertarian view, but libertarians do kind of have a reputation for being like conspiracy theorists and kind of going over the line with their level of distrust of government. So that's telling of you that you don't like his policy, but you don't think that, Obama is the reincarnation of a pharaoh or an alien.
Right. They call me crazy for other reasons. But as far as conspiracy theory, I don't buy into those things. Maybe 9/11. That one has some validity, I think, but that's not usually my MO.
And are you
that guy?
Are you familiar with the Nolan chart?
Is that the one on the screen there?
It is.
Yeah. We've all taken that test. I mean, your first meeting, it's like your indoctrination into the cult. They give you that thing, and you fill it out, and I'm a centrist too.
I was 100% top of the diamond libertarian, so I don't know. My star was up here at the tip top.
I have a question. In terms of healthcare, I've found that libertarians have a lot of different areas on how to handle that. Now, granted, it's a states' rights issue, but how would you handle it in terms of making sure that those who can't take care of themselves are taken care of, while making sure that the system isn't abused by those who shouldn't be on it? Like, how would you recommend that states do that?
Right. Well, not to give you the politician's answer, but I think you're right. It is a states' rights issue. So as running for U.S. Senate, there's nothing I could really do about it. I think the only thing I would be able to do is help to repeal Obamacare. And then that would leave it back in the state's lap. I mean, as far as my personal view on what the states should do, every government program needs fixing, needs tweaking. You've always got to watch out for people who are abusing the system, and that's not just healthcare either. I mean, that's food stamps. It's public transportation. I mean, any sort of public service. People are going to take advantage of it. So I honestly don't have a white paper or anything on what I would recommend the states to do in that instance. But as far as
based on that, what do you think is the correct level of involvement of the federal government? Where do you think the federal government should get involved, and what do you think their boundaries should be?
As far as healthcare is concerned?
No, just in general.
Oh, in general? Well, my dad always said growing up that the government's only there for two things. One is building roads, and the other is delivering the mail. And I never really agreed with that. I think you got to have a military. The government has to create some cohesion amongst the 50 states. I mean, if we had 50 different currencies, I think things would be a little chaotic right now. So, not that I'm a fan of the Federal Reserve, but I'm not so hardcore on the libertarian scale that I think everything should be pure anarchy. So I do think government has a legitimate role. I just don't think it has nearly as much a role as it is taking right now.
So if you had to put yourself, I guess, in a camp, like the camp that you're referring to with the no government whatsoever, not even for the roads. Let's call that like the Adam Kokesh camp. And then there's like the more reasonable, well, we do need police. There are bad people out there, kind of Jesse Ventura camp. Like, who is somebody that maybe libertarians and people out there would know of that really closest represents where you're at?
Well, that is a good question.
There's so many of them.
I'm usually all on my own, so I never really try to put myself up there with a measuring stick to somebody else. I don't know. I guess Jesse Ventura will be a good comparison, not on the conspiracy theory side, but certainly on the ex-military, semi-pro-government side. Socially liberal, financially conservative. I could agree with all that.
Definitely, and we have actually had Jesse Ventura's son on the show, where it was about an hour of us going, "I was a fighter."
I'm gonna go look that one up.
What would you say would be the 3 things that you would push for the hardest if you were to win the election? The 3 things that the absolute you think if these 3 things were done, we'd be taking a big step in the right direction.
Well, I think you might have missed this part about the DEA, but my first act would be to get rid of a lot of that stuff. Repeal the Controlled Substances Act, abolish the Drug Enforcement Agency, and in the 1033 program with the Pentagon that's giving weapons, that's already underway, but basically move to end militarization of the police and the drug war. That'd be number 1. Number 2 would probably be to change our foreign policy. So right now, America's the policeman of the world. I don't think that's really a secret. We got military bases all over the world. I would probably shut some of those down, bring forces closer to home, and stop acting like the policeman. So we'd have a non-interventionist foreign policy. Not to say that it's isolationist, because I still think, I'm not a pacifist. I think warfare does serve legitimate ends. But I don't think we need to be telling every country in the world what to do. The third thing I would do is destroy the Federal Reserve. And that's probably the one line in there. So, generally speaking, I mean, our monetary policy is pretty bad. Specifically speaking, though, the Federal Reserve is public enemy number 1. So those are probably the top 3 things.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and I'm at the point where even if, I'll be honest, anybody running in my local area, I could disagree with them 100% on everything they say, but if they say they want to abolish or audit the Federal Reserve, I will vote for them. Because let's be honest, I'm probably not going to do any of the other stuff they say anyways. So.
Right. Well, come on down to Florida, man. You can vote for me then.
And you mentioned non-interventionist, but not isolationist. That's speaking towards the military, but what about your feelings about financial aid to other countries and giving money to other countries?
You know, I kind of lean toward the official libertarian platform on that one too. I can't think of any legitimate reason to do that other than to keep other countries in debt to us and to really, in the long run, keep them impoverished. So I'm all about shutting down foreign aid to other countries.
Well, because the way that the IMF works, and I agree with you 100%, we always say giving foreign aid. We don't give it, we loan it.
Right, yeah. And, you know, I was talking with somebody from the Air Force just a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me about all the quote-unquote military aid we give, and it turns out all these things are actually loans. They're buying American products. It's not like we just give them money. And everything somehow loops back here and enriches us. It's only...
Well, you can see there's a loop where we give them money to repair their country. That money doesn't solve all issues, so they, repair infrastructure, they build some schools, and then, oh shit, we can't pay back this loan. No worry, we'll give you another loan to pay off the first loan. It's like, that's, talk to any mortgage lender, that doesn't work long term, and it ends up just bankrupting these countries. It makes them worse. Look at Mexico as a direct result of that.
Well, aid is a misuse in that term. It's like financial aid. If someone said, I got financial aid, and they meant that they don't mean they got a free ride to school. And I think the word itself is misleading. So when you say you want to take aid away from someone, they automatically think if there's an earthquake in Nepal that you're not going to help anybody, and that's not what that means.
Right. I think real aid is, I'm a member. I probably shouldn't say this on air. I'm a member of the Rotary, though. I don't know. They probably don't want to be associated with this campaign, but Rotary goes out and they help people like that. I mean, there are charitable organizations that, when that earthquake and fall happened, they were out there helping. The United States government, do they really have a role in going out and doing disaster relief all over the world? I mean, that really just, you gotta ask any gangster. You're talking about mortgage lenders, but ask any gangster. That's how you keep someone in your pocket. You do them what looks like a favor, and then they owe you life.
Gangster, pimp. Talk to any pimp.
Right.
All right, well, as libertarians, we're obviously going to agree with a lot of stuff that you say on foreign policy, the Federal Reserve especially. That's like libertarian issue number one. But I do want to get at some of the a little bit harder hitting issues, and a lot of the articles and things that we found when researching you for this episode kind of say that since this campaign, you've kind of put on a persona, that a lot of people are accusing you of doing an accent and saying he's playing up the Southern gentleman. What would you say in response to the people who say that?
Well, on the one hand, I was born in Ohio, so
Hey,
Ohio people do have Southern accents.
I'm talking to you from Canton, Ohio, my friend.
All right, killer. Yeah, I was born in Canton. But, so yeah, I only moved down to the South when I was 3. So they do have me on that. I'm Yankee born. And I went up to law school in Chicago, so I'm Yankee educated too. But I was raised a Southerner by Southerners, so I don't know how they think of that as an act. There was this whole thing with Above the Law during that whole series where one of my classmates said that I sounded like the guy from Django. Yeah. And I thought to myself, you've known me for 3 years. How did you never notice that I didn't talk the same way as you? I don't know. I mean, when I'm talking like this, I guess it's kind of toned down, but it's just like any other accent. When you get upset or you're passionate or you're nervous about something, it comes out.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I'll speak to the fact that my sister, she was born and raised in the Chicago area. She went and lived in Utah for about 2 years, and then she lived in southern Ohio, right on the Kentucky border, for like 4 or 5 years. And she picked up a little bit of a twang. When you get down into like southern Ohio, they really have a little bit of a southern accent, and you do pick it up if you're there for a few years. So that kind of explains, like, yeah, you kind of go in, you catch it a little bit here and there.
Yeah. And to your credit, I mean, you've done poetry, you do the fireside chats, you do when you give a speech, and like you said, you're a fan of, like, classic rap and classic music, and I mean, all those people, when they get on stage, they don't sound exactly like they sound when they're sitting here face to face having just a normal conversation.
Right.
That sort of gravitas builds up in you, and you start talking like, hey, we gotta. You get energized, and it just comes out. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think the best way to analogize would be like a fighter, or someone in battle. If you're going into a fight, and you get in there and you kick the shit out of this guy, when you come out of the ring, are they going to say, well, now that you're peaceful, and now that you're calmed down like the rest of us, you must have been faking it in the ring over there? I see that is the real person, and I don't see exclusive. Just because I'm toned down and not on fire, preaching fire and brimstone right now, I don't think that means it's fake when I do that. It's just different situations call for different measures.
I think it's to your credit and benefit, because when I started watching your videos to familiarize myself with you and the things that you talk about, it's one of the things that I actually found attractive, or something, that I like listening to your cadence and, the way you inflect your words and stuff. And I think a lot of ways it is like a driving home point. Yeah, you're a fighter. You're in the ring. You're throwing verbal blows, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think from listening to those fireside chats, just to add in, I like that I've heard you say multiple times kind of the importance of vocabulary and the importance of understanding language, and that's I couldn't agree with more. Like, you can't be dissident if you don't know what dissident means. You can't, like, if you don't have the vocabulary, you don't have the intellect that goes along with the vocabulary.
Right, and a lot of people, they want to complain about, oh, well, look how dumbed down America's getting, and look how stupid people are when they believe what they're reading in the media. They don't look in the mirror and think, you know, I'm the one sharing memes on Facebook, and I'm the one buying everything that Fox News or CNN, whichever side you're on, is selling me. And it all starts with us as people. It's not a government thing, it's not a media thing, it's everybody else, all of us. We want it dumbed down, and we buy into this system, and I cannot accept that. So everybody on my campaign team said, you know, before the first Fireside Chat came out, they were like, you know, there was a recent study done that says the reading level of most people, like all these popular songs, they're on a third grade level.
Yes, I rant about that often.
Yeah, and I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. That is selling out to me, and I couldn't even run this campaign like that. I would go insane. So I'm going to make everyone listen to what I'm saying. If they don't want to listen, you know, that's on them. But don't complain about how dumbed down America is if you're not going to even try.
So you're kind of saying that, like, that idea of, like, kind of, you know, Budweiser doesn't put, you know, chicks in bikinis on their commercial because it doesn't sell, and, you know, they don't dumb it down because they want to. They dumb it down because that's what we want. You're saying that's nonsense, and you think people almost, like, are aching for intelligence.
No, I wouldn't say that at all. I think people say they want intelligence. I think they're fooling themselves, though. But I also think it's a leader's job to make people think and to educate them. And I get a lot of flack from libertarians about that because they're saying, well, who the hell do you think you are to educate any of us? But if you're not doing that, what kind of leader are you?
So you want to trick dumb people into listening to being smart people. You want to get people who are looking for nothing and give them something.
Yeah, that would be a nice way to put it. Yeah, I mean, it's all theater, right? In a sense that you you get on a radio show and people are talking shit about your accent. Well, then everybody's going to go say, well, I want to listen to this crazy guy, and then, oh my God, he's right. And
I'll be honest,
the only thing they have to comment about you. You can already tell that they must be intimidated by the message, because anytime I've found that it's a distractionary thing where someone is being told to look in one direction for something that really makes no sense at all. You can even catch it in the news. You watch Caitlyn Jenner because they're going to go ahead and put something horrible through Congress.
Right. Or they're going to bomb a country. So let's talk about, oh, Britney Spears is back.
But I'll acknowledge the part that we play in this a little bit, that we heard about you, Augustus Invictus. Immediately you're like, who is this guy? We start looking at the website, joking around, like laughing. Obviously, I will say too, we love Jesse Ventura, and we make fun of Jesse Ventura more than anybody else on the planet. So it doesn't come from a hateful place, but it did.
Human what?
A human what? But like, it got us to look into you, and as we're looking into you over the past week, me and D, like, did you watch this Fireside Chat yet? Like, oh, did you see this part? Like, before you even came on today, we were watching one of your more recent videos where you start off by kind of calling out people who just complain about things on the internet and wear hipster shirts. It's like, he just got people's attention.
Right, and you started the one of your most recent videos, Total Insurrection. We were playing a little bit of that in the very beginning of today's show while we were waiting for you to get in here. So glad and happy that you made it in. And you said that the speech, it is to inspire, not to instill fear. I ask, how far are you willing to go? And that's just another example of the way that you sort of rein me in with your speech and your talk. And just where do you get all this courage from?
Well, I think it all started with that letter, actually. Because once the FBI comes after you, what could scare you after that? You know. And
right, you
I
see
walked
things differently. Sure.
Yeah, when you walk across the country into the desert and you spend some time out there, just assuming that you're going to die and not come back, you kind of lose a lot of fear. And you think, well, these people might not like what I'm saying, or they might disapprove of me, and that just falls right off here. Like, who cares? You know? I've been through a lot worse than approbation and criticism.
You're kind of like the Incredible Hulk. Your secret is you're always angry.
Well, I have been drinking a lot of protein shakes, so. Yeah.
Have you? What would you say is the the most important thing third parties can do to get seen more? Because whether it's you got like the Libertarians, we're the third biggest political party in the country. We carried 1%, and there's people out there that are not like the Constitutionalists are real close to Libertarians, and they get like almost 0% of the vote. What are some of the things you think could matter in terms that the Libertarian Party itself as a whole could probably do to get more people to notice people like Gary Johnson and Judge Jim Gray?
Right. Well, on a national scale, I don't know. I honestly don't have much experience in that. But on a state scale, just from what I'm familiar with, if I had one criticism of the way the LPF, the Libertarian Party of Florida, is going, it's that they try to play into the Democrat-Republican game. That's what I was getting at in that speech. They want to be invited to all the speeches. They want to be invited onto the debates on TV. And if it were up to me, I would think you'd want to hit social media. You'd want to hit the internet. You'd want to do guerrilla marketing. I mean, if you're a small business, you're not trying to compete on television with those ads with a huge law firm. You're trying to put up flyers, go to college campuses, do grassroots outreach. I think we'd have a lot more success if we were doing things like that than trying to play the system's game.
And I'll be honest, the Democrat Party is amazing at doing that. They know how to use social media, and they know how to have an internet presence where the Republican Party absolutely doesn't. I mean, they had their first debate on Fox News and Fox News only. Like, if you want to get younger viewers, yeah, that's the way to do it. You know, you should be on YouTube, you should be on Facebook.
Yeah, I had to watch it on YouTube after someone had uploaded it the next day.
Yeah.
So I watched it on Fox News.
Well, and that is something that I've noticed, and that's what got us to notice you, is that you seem to be trying to do the social media thing and understanding that, hey, most people under the age of 35 don't even have cable TV. They're doing everything on the internet. If you want something to stick with people, you can't do it through Fox or CNN or MSNBC. You got to do it through Twitter. You got to do it through Instagram.
Well, at least for our generation, yeah. And you know, anyone campaigning will tell you, or maybe they won't tell you because they want to keep this a secret. But what you got to do is go for a target market, just like any business. Campaigning is nothing more than marketing. So our target demographic is millennials. That's our generation. So our generation is not going the mainstream. They are not watching CNN and Fox News. So why would you waste your time advertising there and trying to get in there? It's senseless.
And who do you think is doing that well in the 2016 presidential race? And could you maybe just address the field and the way that you see things going in the presidential race?
Who's doing the social media aspect, well, you mean?
Sure.
I know that for our Senate race here, Alan Grayson seems to be doing the best job. I mean, he's got, God knows how many followers. He's tweeting more than I am. I mean, he's got to have an army of tweeters or whatever you call them. So he's doing a great job. As far as the presidential election, I think Trump is the one who knows how to play the system, probably because he owns a quarter of it. But he's doing a great job just stirring up his own legend and agitating, and everybody's name is speaking Trump. So I'd say he's doing the best of it all, but he's using the more conventional means.
Do you think that Trump
will lose at this point?
Do you think that Trump is the answer? Because just the answer to this, that when the presidential race first started, before he announced, I think a lot of people's biggest fear was that the race was going to come down to Clinton versus Bush, and that just freaked everybody out because, I mean, that just sounds ridiculous. Is Trump the answer to that, you think?
You know, I've had a lot of people say around me that Trump is probably a shill, and he's trying to throw the election, and he's going to drop out so that it is Clinton versus Bush, and that's the whole reason Trump is here. And I don't know if I believe that. I think if you're trying to disrupt the two-party system and you're trying to disrupt family dynasties controlling the country, then yeah, Trump might be the answer, because there's this cycle in history, and democracy always devolves into anarchy, and we are almost there. And any time that happens, a strong man comes and takes over the government. Should that be Donald Trump? I don't know, but history is more about what's possible and not what should have happened.
Great answer.
Yeah, and by the way, D-Like is a shill for Donald Trump.
I am.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just the only problem is I'm still waiting for my check.
He's got plenty of
Doing
money.
free advertising for him.
Well,
I actually donated to your campaign. Did you get the Invictus for United States Senate stickers there, Augustus?
Oh, no, they haven't come in yet, man. But thank you for sending them. I know they're on. I got the shipping statement in my email, but no, they haven't arrived yet. I'm still looking out for you.
All right. Well, I got to do some tracking on that. I can't wait for you to get them.
I can see the headline now. Augustus Invictus is a shill for big sticker. The sticker
Consider this
lobby
my fault.
bought him.
Yeah.
All right. Do you guys have any more questions, and then maybe we can jump into entertainment?
Well, I think he already mentioned his musical tastes before I got on the show. That would be a good segue into entertainment, but I think I blew it.
Well, let's hear some of your favorites there, Augustus. Well, who are some of your favorite musical artists?
Oh, sweet.
ICP.
I'd say Converge, probably. Not even close, man. My best friend does love ICP, and I don't understand that. But Converge is probably my favorite band. They're a hardcore band from Massachusetts.
Who is it?
Converge.
Converge. I've heard. I don't think I've heard them. But I'm looking them up because I like a lot of that music.
Cool. Yeah, they're probably up there. The Mars Volta, they're no longer together, but that's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson's not just one of my biggest musical idols, but he's also been just a big influence on me personally. Like we were talking about earlier with how you hook people in through this song and dance thing. That's what Marilyn Manson did with Smells Like Children when he put out Sweet Dreams. He put out this hit single, and nobody realized, my God, this guy's the Antichrist, and they went about the album, and he's famous overnight.
I went to junior high school with him, and I'll tell you what, it was a trip.
I'll bet. So
Wait,
he's one of those guys.
You went to junior high with Marilyn Manson?
Yes.
Really? I have a theory, just since we've mentioned Marilyn Manson and ICP at the same time, I have a theory about both of them, that they are both totally normal, well, in ICP a group of guys and Marilyn a guy. They are totally normal people who just are really good at marketing, and they realize that be part of a community, and if you can create a community for them, you'll be like a totally
That's more
successful.
so with ICP than Marilyn Manson. Manson's definitely his own entity.
I don't know, I got a feeling that dude
Yeah.
eats ramen noodles like the rest of us.
I think he's rich enough to buy his own steakhouse at this point, though.
I don't know if
I'd
you
eat there.
guys had heard this. CNN, did you see this country music legend Rips Washington in Facebook rant? I'm really not much of a country music fan, but every time Charlie Daniels says something, it's always interesting. And it mentions CNN calls it a blistering screed against Congress. And a lot of what he says has a lot of logic to it. He praised America as a counterbalance that has canceled out a lot of tyranny, evil, and conquest, and recounted various highlights from American courage. But then he mentioned that the courageous politicians that once championed this nation have been replaced for the most part by a breed of milksop, politically correct, scared of their own shadow, pushover, pathetic excuses for public servants. And I whenever he writes something, I've always found that he's one of the entertainers. I can only name like one song by the guy, really, but you always listen. The courage to face down and the courage to face down an out of control president, even when he makes a deal with the devil. He then challenged the members to ask themselves, do I really believe that Iran will not use the money we're releasing to them to finance terrorists to kill Americans? And then, when the Iranians develop a nuclear device, will they really not use it against America and Israel? Or you can hide from the truthful answer to that question, an answer that will be required from you one day. I do wish he would mention that the most glaring error about the Iran deal is that they're building it on the most active earthquake zone in the world. It's really going to create another Fukushima.
Yeah,
But
I
in
love that
any
you've been
event,
big on that, Sam. That like your big thing is like not like arguing with Iran and whether we should them or not. Your big thing is like don't build it there, just not there.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then people ask me, do you believe that Iran would use it for terrorism? Even then, my answer is a yes, but it's not the normal yes. I don't think they're going to build a nuclear bomb in the true sense of it so much as a dirty bomb. Because, I mean, a glorified hand grenade with some nuclear fuel, especially if the person doesn't care if they live, can do a lot of damage. And you could even purposefully blow up the facility if you wanted to. Being a war, because another warring faction of Islam, because they tend to use any weapon against each other when they're angry, and it's not so much the people of Islam, but the leaders of Islam. I worry about the earthquake zone, and I do worry about terrorism, but I worry about the earthquake zone more, because even if absolutely nothing happens, the dominoes are all lined up just like it was for Fukushima, and all of the same doctors that are concerned about this. I should say we're concerned about Fukushima, are now concerned about this, and I think that they're all being ignored.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's like foreign policy having to do with like I don't know, entertainment, Sam. Augustus, have you gone and seen any good movies recently? Sorry, I get frustrated by Iran. Have you seen anything good?
No, but Black Mass is coming out in a couple weeks, and I'm really stoked to see that.
Black Mask. D-Lake, what's that?
It's about,
sure.
What is it?
It's about Whitey Bulger, the gangster in Boston.
Oh yeah, sure. The new Johnny Depp movie. Yeah, that looks great.
The Departed was based on Whitey Bulger, but this one's actually about him as a literal person. So
Yeah, violent guy, a gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny Depp looks like he's gonna give just a great performance in that. Something we haven't, I mean, instead of playing one of these wacky pirates or something, that looks like a great role.
Right, he's always
Go ahead.
insane, but now it's like psychopathic insane. It looks pretty good.
You were
You
talking
like him
earlier.
in Ed Wood. It's like my favorite Johnny Depp movie ever. His portrayal of Ed Wood was one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny Depp is one of these guys we were talking about earlier with like the difference between like a guy when he's on stage or when he's in a movie versus when he's like talking to his friends and the different way people talk. Johnny Depp, he can like do all these different voices and like sound like anybody that he wants to in all these movies, but then you hear him in person, he mumbles. You can't even understand him.
Yeah. Well, he's known as a character actor, so I'm sure that.
Which means that he's insane.
Yeah, which means he's insane. Probably an introvert.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely an introvert. Do you like? You're always watching movies on Netflix. You got anything good?
Yeah, I do. I was just looking up Black Mass with Johnny Depp there. Let me go to my screen share. I watched a movie on Netflix this past week called Life of Crime, starring Jennifer Aniston, Mos Def, some other people. What was really cool about it to me is that it's essentially like a prequel to Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown, because it's based on a book by Elmore Leonard, the same author, and has the same characters. So basically Mos Def is Ordell Roby, who was played by Samuel L. Jackson and Jackie Brown. And then there's another guy that's Lewis. There's a girl that's Melanie, if you recognize the names of those characters from Jackie Brown. This movie, though, is like a story that happened before the Jackie Brown story, because the author used this, because the director used the source material from the same writer. And so I thought that was really cool. Like, I didn't even recognize it at first until they're like, hey, Ordell Roby. I'm like, why does that name sound so familiar? Then I went and looked it up on IMDb and found out all the connections. Good movie overall. They kidnap Jennifer Aniston. She's the wife of this rich business guy, but he's busy having affairs, and he doesn't even care that his wife is kidnapped. You should check it out. Life of Crime.
Sounds like fun. I've been rewatching. I've gotten to this point, which I know you've all reached at some point, where with all the infinite possibilities of Netflix, you've run out, and you have to go back and start rewatching. I've been watching Star Trek Enterprise. I'm a big Star Trek Enterprise fan. I'm not gonna lie. What do you guys? Oh, I thought that was a picture of Patrick Stewart.
Is it true that there's a tribble on Donald Trump's head? I must know. Is there a tribble on Donald Trump's head, Kyle?
A tribble? What's a tribble?
The Star Trek, the trouble with tribbles. You've never seen it?
I probably have. There's a lot of Star Trek.
These little fuzzy things that.
Makes perfect sense. I don't know. I've watched so much Star Trek. It's sad. I gotta stop.
Now I've set you on a Netflix mission.
And do you have Netflix? Do you go to Redbox, Augustus? I mean, it sounds like you don't have cable TV since you couldn't watch the debates live. It's something that Kyle talks about all the time. And could you talk about that?
I hate cable. I'm avidly against cable.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Yeah, same here. I've hated commercials all my life, but I haven't had television in at least 10 years. I just don't watch it. I do have, every now and then I'll get a Netflix account if I want to watch some specific thing, like the Borgia series, the European one, not the Showtime one. Borgia was really good. But usually, no, I watch movies. I'm a big movie guy.
They Live? Are you a big fan of They Live with Roddy Piper?
I don't know what that is.
You haven't seen They Live and you're a libertarian?
What's it called?
They Live. It's like, imagine if they made a movie about what David Icke thought his life is. I don't know if you know David Icke.
Where Roddy Piper puts on the sunglasses and he can see all the like alien type creatures and the obey sign.
You'll love it. You'll love it, my friend. You'll love it.
Okay. I'm on it.
It's a doozy. But I'm impressed. You're not even on Netflix. That's super impressive to me. Like I've been trying to cut myself.
You laughed at me for not being on Netflix. It's impressive for him. How the hell did that happen?
I'm like trying to do this thing where I cut out any mainstream entertainment whatsoever. Like even on Netflix, I try to avoid shows that originated from networks because I don't trust networks, and they just give you garbage, and they're trying to restrict our internet, and that's the big thing.
Mr. Robot is the only good one that I have seen, and then I was very upset because Mr. Robot was supposed to debut the day after the tragic shooting from Bryce Williams. And because I guess there's a shooting that deals with a news network on the program, according to Mr. Robot's wiki page, USA did not release the new Mr. Robot because of the shooting, which is ridiculous. It's one of the only things on regular TV that I've ever found worth watching. It was mentioned to me by my brother.
See, but it's not about worth watching, Sam. It's about the fact that it's supported by bad companies that want to take away your freedom of internet. So even though they're totally capable of making good programming that you have to be at home at Wednesday at 8, what the fuck does... What? It's not even about the programming. It's about the companies behind them. So I've been really trying to get myself down to purely YouTubers for entertainment, because when you watch YouTubers, that ad goes directly into their pocket. So I'm big on, like you said, you hate ads. I hate ads too, unless I know that the ad revenue goes directly to the creator and nobody else. So I've been trying to go hardcore YouTube. I've been watching a lot of Good Mythical Morning and like random YouTubers.
Now I know where like all my nickel clicks are coming from on my show. Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, that's me not clicking skip ever.
Watching some fireside chats. Augustus, I noticed on your Augustus Invictus for U.S. Senate page on Facebook, you post things like Rage Against the Machine, Know Your Enemy.
Yes, one of the best songs of the 90s.
Yeah, I love Rage Against the Machine. Evil Empire is one of my favorite albums of all time.
I got to meet Tom Morello, and I don't know what he's like now, but he was an amazing, nice guy. We were at the Omni Motel, and he had checked in Cleveland under his own name.
Wow. That sounds dangerous.
Yeah, right. Rage Against the Machine, isn't that where, what's his name, the guy who does all the movie scores and stuff comes from?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Who's he from? The guy who did, like, I don't know. I'm not even going to...
Are you thinking of Trent Reznor?
Trent Reznor. Isn't that him?
That's not Snails. That's my guy. That's my obsession there.
No, I hate that guy. No, I don't hate him. I shouldn't say that. He's never done anything bad to me, and I'm sure that he's perfectly...
Yeah.
That he can hit 2 notes on a keyboard, and his fans are like, he's amazing. That's
because you listen to the wrong songs.
All right, well, we should probably let Augustus get out of here. He's got Senate things to do. He's got to go. He's got to go kiss babies.
Now, when you win, are you going to come back? When you win, and not if you win. Just the hell with that if you win stuff. When you win, are you coming back?
Oh yeah, I'll be here, man. It's been a while.
Wonderful.
I'll hold you to that.
All right, friends, if anyone's still listening, anybody that goes ahead and puts on their Facebook for 1 hour at the top of his campaign, I will promote your favorite charity or your business for a week.
Sweet.
I will too.
Anybody.
Why not? That sounds like fun. That's a good idea. Augustus, where can people find you? Where can they donate if that's a possibility? What do you want people to check out?
If you go to invictusforsenate.com, there is a donate tab on there, and you can pay through PayPal or you can donate through Bitcoin. We take both.
Coach?
Or you could, email me, and I'll give you the address to send a check to, which is probably the more difficult way. So invictusforsenate.com is probably the way to go.
That's for the old people. Oh, how does the internet? Yeah, so invictusforsenate.com, which you can see on my screen behind me. If you're in trouble with the DEA, they can go to imperiumlex.com, right?
Yeah, that's our law firm website. Don't mean to plug it, but yeah, imperiumlex.com is the
I'm plugging it. There's people out there who need representation.
Yeah, well, if it's drugs, I'll take it. Not the drugs, but the case, of course.
I do want to say, I wanted to say it earlier, and I didn't get a chance during the DEA discussion. There's a guy, I work at a place that sells cigarettes, and there's a guy who works for the DEA and comes in every morning and buys a pack of smokes. And it just makes me so mad. Like, your job is to arrest people who like the other things that aren't the one that you like that's legal. Like, all right, sorry.
Like you come into the bar and buy a pitcher of beer, and you're just thinking, man, if you just smoked a doobie, you could probably skip all this.
My buddy put it best. He works at a manufacturing place. They manufacture high quality steel. He's saying he can come into work on Monday morning and say, man, I got so fucking drunk this weekend. I had sex with a stripper. I crashed my car. It was crazy. And everybody, oh man, that was wild. That sounds like fun. But you come in and you're like, yeah, this weekend I just chilled at home. I watched some documentaries and I smoked a few joints. Like, you have to leave now. You're fired. Like, that's so ridiculous. All right, Sam, tell people about your Tumblr.
Yes, I'm the only person on Tumblr, so feel free to find the correct views there. You can also youtube.com/thecorrectviews, and if you can contact me, correctviews@hotmail.com. I went with that because it sticks in everybody's head forever. There's also, if you want to go underground, if you want to stay away from Tumblr, I'm on planet.infowars, and I think I'm one of 2 people on that.
You're one of 5, yeah.
Both of us will appreciate it.
D-Lake, where are you at?
Great, yeah, you can find me all over the internet. Look up The Media Speaks, go to themediaspeaks.com, search David Lake on YouTube, my channel, look for the Captain America shield. Type in D-Lake for Prez and just find all kinds of amazing videos that I've done because I have just such a plethora. I'm so proud of myself for that. And I'm really super just glad and stoked that we had Augustus Invictus, Soul Invictus, on our show today and had this great opportunity to talk to him, find out more about him, find out more about his campaign. I got your back. We're all rooting for you to be in the Senate. We want to see the most dangerous libertarian in America in that seat, in that office. Marco Rubio, you're gone.
Wow.
Augustus is in, and that's the way it should be. I feel really good about today's show, and thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, guys. Thanks very much for having me on.
Go to the Media Speaks. Type in the Media Speaks on the internet. If you can't find it, well, then you don't know how to use the internet, and I can't help you. Thank you, Augustus Invictus, for being on the show. Augustus, invictusforsenate.com. Go and donate. Support his campaign, even if you don't live in Florida.